Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, my custom is first to welcome our guests because I know they're coming with several things that I deem very expensive. Their time, 24 hours. What a beautiful gift that all of us have been given. Precious she is. Misunderstanding who she is and what she does and how we ought to respect and honor her will tell me much about you. The other is the journey. The journey is a powerful creator. It created the individual before us. It has created Katharina in such a powerful fashion that we have the opportunity to enjoy both of these precious commodities that she is willing to share and spend with us here at Threads of Enlightenment. And we like to honor her and thank her for coming. Thank you so much for coming to Threads.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here.
It's an honor. I always, like the onset, I always ask this question: how do you serve mankind? Because I'm trying to get my audience to understand that the time here on this earth is bigger than just them. The question is, how do you serve mankind? And that will tell us much as to who you are. How do you serve mankind?
I serve mankind by spreading love. That's really my mission. I think it's been my mission for a very long time. Yeah, it's the field that I work in now, spreading love.
That is awesome. I like the simplicity of that answer, by the way, because that assignment is a powerful assignment to spread love, especially when we're dealing with different mindset that does not believe in that, in love and the result of it and the way by living by love. One of our customs here is to travel in that time machine. I tell people it's called a memory. And we revisit certain spaces that we visit as an individual that gives birth to us and moves us through our life. What was your family like?
Family line. So half Russian by blood, half Slovakian by blood, and born in Slovakia, but then emigrated to the UK when I was about 4 years old. And yeah, the family lineage is definitely an interesting one. I mean, Slavic history is loaded.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, so it's British history, right? So
yeah.
I've, since that move, been very nomadic most of my life. I've lived in 6 or 7 different countries. And yeah, I mean, even my husband and I, we both have a very nomadic existence right now, which we're looking to resolve by actually staying in one place. Yeah.
And good luck with that, because I know how that, once you have that bug trap, the difficulty of learning how to reside in one location for a long time, it can be testing, if you will. So here's this girl, such strong history within the family. What was your relationship with mom and dad and any siblings, if you had any?
Yeah, so I had one sibling. Relationship to mum was, I think, very classic of a lot of Slavic people. I mean, I work with a lot of people from Eastern Europe, from Central and Eastern Europe. She essentially is the one who raised me. My father was absent for a lot of my childhood because he was working, traveling abroad, bringing home that bacon and, making sure that we were provided for. So he was a very kind of distant figure, almost kind of like a Mickey Mouse figure, in the sense that he would come home and, the weekends that he was home were like a huge deal because he was so rarely around. And it was like laden with gifts and attention and all the wonderful things that as children, my brother and I would crave, as my mother craved. But then my mother was the more strict one, right? She was on at home, raising us, having to do the ins and outs of parenting. Grew up, I think, at least my parents said I was never a rebel. I think I felt like a rebel. Apparently I wasn't a rebel. Apparently I was a very good child. In my mind, I was a rebel. And then, as soon as I was 18, I left home, university, and started my independent life. And I've never really lived home since then. I've always kind of been that person who I would rather pay rent and live in a city, or even if it's like a 30-minute commute to my parents' house, where I was used to live abroad. And even now, I live halfway across the world from them half the time, which I do find difficult. But I wonder if there's something there in my own kind of pattern of being from a migrant family. I was always moving, always being far away. I can't even really trace my Russian lineage. My Russian lineage, they all live in the Middle East now. And then my Slovakian lineage, they're also in Slovakia, but a couple of them have also moved abroad. And so there's something about this kind of separation piece, which is quite interesting. Yeah.
Having dad, as you said, Mickey Mouse, not the absentee individual, if you will. How did you manage yourself within that relationship, knowing that dad is not there, but mom is the strict one, which she most likely have to be because of the situation that is presented to her? What was relationship to dad and your relationship to mom like? How was that when dad was home? And how was your relationship to mom?
Yeah, relationship to mom, I think, was like a lot of kids would have with a parent who's living the day in and day out reality. You know, obviously we got along very well, but then when she would have to discipline me or tell me to do things and tidy my room or do the housework, I would grumble and resent it and blah, 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 you know. So she kind of had to deal with the ups and downs, I think, of the realities of parenthood. But my father never deal with that because he was away. My only exposure to him was in the sacred couple of days that we have together, where the focus really wasn't like, be happy, be upbeat, celebrate that he's here, avoid the difficult topics of when are you going to come home and when are you going to move back. I think it was, I mean, now I understand because I realized I grew up with a huge abandonment mood. It's no surprise. Right? And after doing so much healing in that space, which honestly took me a very long time to kind of fully resolve. And even now, I would say that I think it's something that I have resolved, but it's still going to be a little vulnerable piece of me, I think, for the rest of my life, most likely. But yeah, it was such kind of like happy, delightful time when he was around, but not very real, right? Because it's like this kind of intense, like happy gifts, dinners out, and we'd often go to Moscow growing up. And then we'd go to like the Russian ballet and, all the big fat operas. And it was all very, very magical. But mom was kind of like, day in, day out, do the housework, do your homework, all of that stuff. It's a very different dynamic there.
Yeah, the reason why I was probing a little is because from interviewing and having conversation with people, an absentee individual creates a vacuum, and that vacuum always manifests in a form of abandonment, which is one of those threads that individual will have to deal with for the rest of their life. I don't think it ever goes away. I think it's different layers of it will be revealed as we are moving through our life. But I think it always resides there. So here you are. This young woman had that planted within her being, and she is moving on. She's 18. She's gone. She's like, I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. And once you're out of here, and now you're embarking on what we call our self-realization, if you will, and you are out there. What did you find out there as you arrived when you got there?
Yeah, I think I was almost out there a little bit earlier, if I'm honest. I think when I was probably 15 and like puberty hit hard, I did a summer in Slovakia where I was really on my own for about a month to 6 weeks. We have a family home there and I went on my own. And I had this like independent adult living. And what happened is kind of terrifying. I became anorexic. So I went out there feeling very, confident and everything would be fine. In the run up to that, there was definitely the beginnings of anorexia forming in me. I went to a very highly successful girls' school, very competitive. Everyone was, it was very privileged school. And I was one of the very few migrants. And so I always had this kind of, I don't really belong here mentality, but then I performed very well. I was very successful academically. So there was also that fear of being seen because I'm the foreigner, I'm the other who's actually doing really well and getting all the praise. And I don't think people really like that, or at least I believe that people didn't really like that. So I think the anorexia for me was almost a way of conforming, of fitting in, and also kind of starting myself, but almost trying to disappear. So I've analyzed a lot of the anorexia. And I think for me, it really was about not wanting to be seen. And during puberty, I think that the less I would eat, the more that I would disappear and not be seen, the more safe I actually felt, because it's like I can kind of blend into the shadows a little bit. And at the same time, I'm thin. I'm getting all of the social capital because all of these people now think that I'm just thin, the athletic one. There's a very kind of twisted dynamic. But when I went to Slovakia on my own that summer, my first real summer alone, the anorexia spiraled. And for the whole 6 weeks, it was bad. Like, it was really, really bad. I got afraid. I actually felt very afraid. And I remember when it kind of dawned on me that I was like, I think I have this anorexia. I didn't even know what it was. I remember being in an internet cafe back then, looking it up and making a decision that, like, I'm not going down this path. I'm not doing this. And so when I came back to the UK, I started counseling. I went to the school counselor, and I was like, my parents were in denial about it because I didn't even know it was. But I went to the school counselor and started really back then, and I was 16 at the time, this journey into personal growth, personal development. And I'd grown up reading, Tony Robbins and like all of those big books, because my father is a coach himself now. But it was really when I was 16 and I started getting that independent help. And then when I was 17, my father paid for me to do my NLP and hypnotherapy qualification as a means of, at least to get a qualification at the end of this. Like, go help yourself and you'll get a qualification. Very academic family. So I did that, and that was really helpful. And I managed to get the anorexia under control. I wasn't cured, but I got it under control. And so when I was 18 and I left the university, it was kind of my first step into, I think, healing all of the 18 years prior that I didn't know were actually pretty much damaging me, right? Like the abandonment, the anxiety, the high achieving kind of perfectionism within me. All of those core wounds that had formed from having a father who was absent, growing up in a country, or you'd be born in a country that was transitioning from communism to capitalism, and that kind of change, I think that really impacted me. And just being a very high achieving kid who kind of had to figure it out. So 18 onwards, it was like getting more therapy, doing more of that inner work, getting more self-reflective. Yeah, I'm still on that path, right? Like,
but that's insightful, Bill. That's insightful for a young individual, 16 years old. Recognize, number one, I need help. Number two, you made the decision that I am not going to go down this road. One of the things that I tell people, and I'll say it, I guess, until maybe someone listening and get it, is that the reason one's life is circular is because that individual haven't made a decision yet. The decision has to be made, and I tell them it has to be made by the subconscious individual, the conscious individual. The conscious individual, a song, he's going to make a decision and a song will come and then boom, you forgot. What was that about? But when a subconscious individual and your subconscious make a decision like you did, it is amazing what we do in order to make it a reality. We will take the necessary steps, and we will be willing to spend whatever the cost is to bring that reality to pass when we make, I am not going down this road. So here this girl is given the opportunity to, you understand the principles of self-development. You're in it. You have your counselor and guide. You said you were able to handle it, but you weren't able to cure, as you said. What were some of those tools that you acquired as you're studying the self-development and NLP? NLP is a powerful tool when utilized, can bring some masterful changes in an individual life, because I know I also went through the program. So what were some of those some of those tools that you brought in to assist you through that dark time? Because there's a lot of girls, Katharina, that are in that space.
Yeah, for sure. And sorry if I keep coughing. I'm recovering from my own kind of detox set. But I think for me, the two biggest things back then were recognizing that my reality isn't the objective reality out there, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
That actually the thoughts I have in my head, the fears I have in my head, the anxieties I have in my head are almost my own. They're kind of almost unique to me. It actually I don't have to believe them. I didn't quite know how to change them. I think kind of learning how to work with limiting beliefs and core wounds and all of this stuff really did take me about 15 years.
Yeah.
It was a long, 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 hard process. I think I only honestly kind of began to figure it out maybe when I was 26. The anorexia came back when I was 26 for another reason, which I can share. And that was when I really did kind of kill it off and cured myself of it. So I think there I did kind of start to learn how to apply the techniques. And then probably, honestly, when I was like 33, I learned the final round. I had still a lot of learning to do, right? Because I think if I could cure myself of all my limiting beliefs, I'd already be a multi-billionaire somewhere. But I think, realizing that my reality, what's going on in my head, I don't have to believe because it might not actually be true. And also recognizing that I can actually change my reality and I'm not actually a victim in all of this. These are huge realizations. I think kind of being able to trace, because once I began to connect the dots in my LP, I remember I began to connect the dots of the beliefs that I have around myself and where they might come from and how I can trace them back to kind of the original abandonment with my father. That for me was such a moment of like, holy cow, what happened? So I remember driving away from my NLP course. It was like a 40-minute drive and just bawling my eyes out, thinking like how much pain have I accumulated over the years? I didn't even know I had. I thought this was all me. I thought it was all normal. And now it's kind of bubbling up. I have to resolve it. So it was the awareness piece, I think, really that shifted everything there. I hadn't quite figured out how to build a capability, but I had the awareness.
And that's a powerful example that one must have the awareness, order. What we're talking about takes years. This is not, personal development is a lifestyle. It is not a, like a McDonald's or something that you walk in and have your way kind of crazy stuff. It's manifest right away. It takes years because it takes different types of revelation about that situation as you're moving through your life. And she had mentioned that that particular thing came back in her 20s, even though she had the awareness. It takes time to bring in all the other tools to continue developing the practicality of moving through. So here you are, you've gotten the awareness, you are seeing the thread, the origin, the genesis, if you will, of where it came from and how and so forth. You're gaining some understanding as you are in that space. And then again, you're gaining some really good stuff being in NLP. How did you manage that information, but you had the knowledge, if you will, but you hadn't implemented? What did your life look like within that span of when you had started accumulating, had the awareness? What was going on in your life at that time?
When it came back the second time, what do you mean?
Yeah. How did it begin to lead up back to that?
Yeah. So there was, honestly, I think my life has been kind of an incremental series of breakthroughs, probably every, let's say, 2 to 3 years. Now I'm kind of thinking about it. Because after I kind of got my brains on anorexia and I was 18 or so, did my university degree, everything was fine. And then my father left. It turned out that he didn't want to be part of the family, like with my mother-in-law. So he left, and then my whole world crashed again because it was like that abandonment kind of finally fully came true. He was abandoning us. And my greatest fears were made manifest. And I stayed strong for about a year. I was living in Spain at that point, building my first business and, being this like getting entrepreneur. And about a year into that, I had a frame of mind and nerves breakdown. And that's why I decided to do something called the Hoffman process. It's a retreat to help me heal. And that's all about tracing the lineage of the patterns that have formed who you are and have formed the pain that you're in, that I was in. So the Hoffman process was unbelievably transformative. I always see my life as like pre-Hoffman, post-Hoffman. And after Hoffman, I went on my merry way. I, went back to the UK, then moved to Dubai to do another business I was helping a friend grow. And it was living in Dubai after a couple of years, I think it's like a year and a half or so, that the anorexia began to creep back. And I think now, again, now that I understand it, I think I was that fear of being seen again. I do it for this. I was so vulnerable out there. This was like, in the early 2010s. I felt very vulnerable. I was single. I was on my own. And I didn't feel very safe, if I'm honest. And I think that honestly, part of my coping mechanism was just disappear, start to disappear again, start to control the food and get very small and just disappear. And so it came back, and that was horrifying because at this point I was like, how is it possible that I was like 25 and the hands up to a 25-year-old woman? I thought anorexia was like for teenagers. I didn't think that willing for it later in life. Like, I've never heard of a woman having it. So that was mind-boggling for me. And I remember when I did feel it come back, I told my parents, and they were like, "It'll be fine, you know, you come home and it'll blow over." And I was like, "No, I don't. This is like a disease. I think it's like a proper mental disease." And so I was very well. A couple of things happened. I was shifting careers at the time, and I had decided to come back to university and study. And I ended up studying women's studies at Oxford, which was one of the best things I've ever done in my life, because I basically went back to the UK, you know, recovering from anorexia, to do a women's studies program where I basically studied the phenomenology of what it is to be a woman in a woman's body. And then I studied masculinity, what is being a man's body. And then I studied kind of the psychology of masculinity, femininity, and how society screws us up, and all the toxic narratives and conditioning and performativity and all of the stuff that you and I talked about at the beginning, and just how limiting and destructive it is. So I spent this incredible year at Oxford recovering from anorexia. I was also dismantling my own impression, like from an academic perspective. And it was honestly the most liberating thing. And I will say by the end of that year, I was probably like 95% cured of anorexia. I also discovered a load of really good somatic tools, and I discovered, you know, I learned about nervous system, and I was doing in parallel of studying academic side of things, which was great because I was really understanding intellectually where does anorexia come from, at least for me. You know, what is my pressure like? What is the needy woman like? And all of us asked. So that was incredible. I was also healing my relationship with men because that's studying masculinity, and I mean where masculinity gets disenfranchised, and that was also incredibly healing. From an academic standpoint, Oxford was fantastic. And at the same time, I had a coach who was helping me recover from an eating disorder, and she was fantastic. I was also doing, you know, a lot of therapy, a lot of coaching as well. I was really investing a lot of my student money into their growth. And so at the end of Oxford, I just felt pretty good. You know, I was like, I feel 95% sure now. There's still a big balance, but as you know, it was a year into my recovery. I'm like fierce and passionate and ready to keep going and ready to kind of keep reclaiming my own freedom. And so that was like another chapter of that personal growth.
That was powerful that you were able to see through the fact that you were going through all of those different things and then as an academic, with all of that studying and bringing all the tools and being aware of all the tools and the different, the reasons behind one's actions and digging deeper and all of that, being in a mix of that for that year and change. What a gift to be able to dance there, and where you can gain the power of who you are. You gain your freedom as an individual woman coming out to see who you are. What a powerful gift that was, that you got a chance to experience. So here's this woman, she's made it through. She has conquered this mindset that has been plaguing her for many years. How did you feel?
I felt, I actually don't even remember how I felt. I know that I had a new kind of feel for freedom because I ended up moving. You know, I actually started working in international development. My mission back then, I thought, would be to work in the international aid sector and you know, do the work I can do to help there. I worked for a company who were going to send me to Sierra Leone for a year to do work then. And I remember I was like, I can't, like, I'm not ready after living in the Middle East, and I'm just not ready to go away from the UK or go away from kind of what feels like more of a home base. And so I left that role and I started working in London for a year and a half. And then I did a trip to Canada. So as part of my kind of reclaiming my freedom and discovering who I am, you know, in my 20s, at this point I was 27, I went to Canada for a vacation on my own. And I'd actually I'd been on vacation on my own to see people. Like I traveled plenty in my But they're actually done a solo vacation where it's just me. And so I went for 2 weeks to Vancouver on my own. And I will never forget. Like, I remember standing in the queue to check in, and people in front of me with like big suitcases. They said, I've got goosebumps for anything. And they said, they were talking to someone and they were like, yeah, we're moving to Vancouver. And they were like, oh, really? Why? And this couple said, well, we went on holiday and fell in love with this place and now we want to live there. But I remember at that moment being like, holy moly, something's happening. And I got there, got off the plane, saw the mountains. I was very jet lagged, and then I checked into my little hostel, and I got a little walk around the city, and I was like, it's pretty cool. The cities are very nice, but the mountains I had taken. Then over the week, I went up to the mountains, I went camping, and I did all of this like outdoor stuff. Yeah. And I felt this much more rounded, calm, spiritual side of me just begin to flourish. And so lo and behold, I decided I'm going to move there. And I got back after 2 weeks, started applying for my admin residency. I really jumped the gun. I was like, how about evidence? Let's do this. So I started applying. At the time I was under 35, so I could get like the student visa, and then I was applying for permanent residency. I was like, you know what, I don't want to keep being nomadic. I want to settle down at some place. So even this place up for the 2 weeks is fine. Make a move across the world. And in the end, I did actually get a job out there, which I found through LinkedIn, which is wild. Moved over to Vancouver and started life there for 5 years. And that was like another kind of whole level of transformation, because in Vancouver, I was very lucky that plant medicine is legal. So I really discovered all of that kind of space and spent a lot of time in nature and doing a lot of therapy and a lot of coaching and working with different healers and practitioners. And I found that the attitude there was different to what I was finding in the UK. It felt kind of further ahead. It felt more advanced. It felt more open. And so I went deep into healing all of that lineage work with my mother and my father. Really pretty good at the end of it all. And thanks to plant medicine. And then another chapter started, which is when I met my first fiance, ex-fiance. Should I keep going?
Yeah, because this is you. This is how you were given birth from in your journey. This is what made you, as if you will, and give you the opportunity to go even deeper. And I tell people, we are so magnificently made that we are so deep that it will take our entire lifetime to get maybe a quarter of who we are as to how powerful we are as individuals. But it's our life, the situations that come in, relationships that will form, change, give us opportunity to dig deep. So you met this first fiance, if you will, and you are at the same time, you are exploring the deepness of all your ancestral things. And that is one of another trauma that we carry with us on top of our personal stuff. And so that is why I believe that this lifetime is not long enough for us to get to the deepness of who we are, is to uncover all of them. So here you are, you're in the mix of all of this. You've met this young man. You must have been on cloud 9 because all of these fantastic stuff is happening to you.
Yeah.
When you were in that, and then you started, because I know the minute people like you and I are in these things and the red flags come, we just, don't worry about it. He's handsome, she's beautiful. They love music, and we love the same music. And then one day, so talk to us as to some of those awareness, those glimpses, because it comes to us that you negated to pay attention to. And then one day, what happened?
Yeah. So I know everything you're saying resonates. So I think I was in such a headspace of I just want to meet the one. I want to, build a family. I want to settle down. I was 28 at the time. And I met this man, and, he ticked all my boxes, and we had a lovely kind of courtship, and everything was really picture perfect. I honestly call it like an Instagram perfect relationship. So I was posting on Instagram all the time. And we had such a lovely thing together. And then we moved out together, and then he was proposed, engaged, and everything again on the surface looked great. on an internal level, I had chronic anxiety throughout the entire relationship. Anxiety like I'd never really felt before. I'd never had anxiety with ex-boyfriends. And I spent a good chunk of that relationship gaslighting myself, telling myself, that it's probably my abandonment wound. I'm probably a really anxious attachment style. And, maybe I have a fear of commitment because my parents are divorced and I just need to kind of push through this. And it's me. I'm the problem. And so I was doing all types of therapy and, I had my own relationship coach, and eventually we started doing marital counseling. And in the end, it kind of transpired for various reasons that we weren't meant to be together at all. And actually, all of my gut instincts throughout that relationship were spot on. We were great for each other. And that anxiety that I was feeling was actually signaling to me, the red flags that we weren't compatible. And I didn't, because I was so desperate to essentially meet that timeline. This is where the high achieving bit came back to bite me. Because in my head, I was like, I have to be engaged and like married, in my early 30s. I want to have kids. The timeline. And when I called off that engagement, which I did I wasn't planning to call it off, and I ended up calling it off, just to put it that way. And when I did call it off, it was a bit of a shock to it was a huge shock to my system. Yeah. Everything in my life just imploded from that moment. It's like truly imploded, because it's almost like my identity of, here I am, this, again, very high achiever person who's had an interesting life and a great career, and I make six-figure salaries, and I have a lovely home in Vancouver, and everything's great in my life, and I have this handsome boyfriend, fiance, whatever, blah, 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 blah. All of this, like, perfection that I had manicured around me just imploded. And suddenly my core wound of I am bad and I'm defected, which is, I know, because that's from, but all of that core wound kind of really, really, really flared up, because suddenly I was the woman in her 30s who had called up an engagement, called up a big wedding, had to sell this property with him, and was kind of stuck in Vancouver with no friends around, really, because most of my friends were his friends. And my friends had actually left the country or left Vancouver. It was, honestly, I think, the darkest period of my life, darker than the anorexia, I would even say, because I just felt so unbelievably alone. And my whole kind of identity felt like it had just been shattered. And it was COVID. I couldn't go back to my family. I was stuck in Vancouver. And it was honestly awful. And so at that point, I remember I trained to be a mindfulness teacher because I was working for a behavioral science company to heal. And this wasn't really part of my healing plan originally, but part of my plan of the excellence, it was actually I would train to be a mindfulness teacher and help him build his own business. And I had this training that I paid for lying in my diary, this like intense mindfulness, teaching training, like silent retreats, and like 8 hours a day. I had it in my diary and I'd paid for it. So I think it's like literally a week after I called for engagement that I had this training, which actually couldn't have come at a better time, because I basically spent like 3 weeks just meditating and processing and, climbing silent little stairs in my meditation classes. And then I did some more plant medicine. And I discovered like the whole kind of embodiment philosophy. And because I felt so unsafe, I think, in my outer world, and I could feel a bit of anorexia like creeping back in, that desire to control and to hide. And I was like, I'm not going there. I'm not doing this. I know this voice. And so instead I started going into my body and actually practicing embodiment. And that was powerful. So honestly, I think for a few months, I just kind of had a very inner existence of a lot of meditation, a lot of being with myself, a lot of cocooning myself in my apartment, candles, and just being with myself. Something clicked there, for sure, because it felt almost like a bit of an ego death, not in a dramatic sense, but it just felt like my plans for life had ruptured.
Yeah.
And just as her coming out of that, and I was beginning to kind of get my feet back on the ground and feeling like, okay, I'm ready to move on with our life. And I was dating again, and I was, kind of having fun and getting out there. I had a bit of a nagging voice that maybe I should come back to Europe. Maybe it's time I come back to Europe. And that's when the Ukraine war started. So my dad lived in Ukraine, and when the Ukraine war started, I went back into that panic space of, oh my goodness, I think there's something World War III. I think my father's going to die. And, my father was calling me, crying on the phone as a refugee. Like it was, air raid sirens in the background, sound bombs. And I was stuck in Vancouver again and just feeling like I honestly thought like kind of humanity would be wiped out. I know it sounds so dramatic now, but I couldn't comprehend Ukraine being attacked by Russia. I mean, I'm half Russian. So that was a really, really, really awful couple of weeks when that happened. And that's when I decided I'm going back to Europe. I'm moving back to Europe. Like I need to be back on European soil, be with my family. I didn't want to leave Vancouver because I love the nature and the mountains, and I did love it there, but it was time to go back. As I came back to Europe, and obviously there wasn't a World War III, touch wood. And I managed to see my dad a little bit because I went over there to see him. But then everything felt a little bit, it felt like I rushed back to be with family, but also meant to be back, if that makes sense. And something felt incongruent. Yeah, something felt pretty incongruent. And I started this new job in London. I had a great salary. I was living in Kensington. I'd got a penthouse for myself. You know, I was like, okay, now that I'm this single woman in London with this high-flying job, I'm going to build the life of my dreams, and got this great apartment and kitted out with all this furniture and all of this stuff. And honestly, I think 3 days into it, I was like, what the heck am I doing? Why am I here? I feel so lost, right? I feel so lost. And so that is where I think it's like stage 6 now, or my first stage of development. But that's when I really actually started doing what I teach my clients to do. And really, it was like a 3-phase process. But at this point, I was like, I've been single for about 6 months. Obviously, I'm still grieving one of my engagement. I'm still grieving Ukraine war. I've got a lot of grief to process. And I have a lot of anger, and I have a lot of all of this emotion. And I'm confident there's a ton of limiting beliefs that I need to get rid of, because how the heck did I end up in that situation? And so I decided to cocoon myself in that Kensington apartment and take that high-flying salary and just invest into my growth. So I got, I had therapy every week, I coaching every week. I tried all the different modalities. I went really, really, really deep. I went really deep into just dismantling all of the junk that was in my head around where I should be in my life, what I should be doing, who I should be dating, the kind of relationships I should be having, and blah, 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 blah. And then as I kind of dismantled all of that, I remember it was summer at this point, I then went into getting really curious, like, okay, what do I actually need? Who am I? Who am I? Now that I've rid myself of this egoic desire to have, the picture perfect relationship, because who the heck cares? It didn't work out anyway. I've rid myself of the desire to have this like high income corporate thing because I hate it. And I'm literally stuck in my Kensington apartment. The house, I hate it so much. So what the possible bloody point of this? Rid myself of that desire. I started getting curious about what do I actually need in my life to be happy? And who do I need in my life? Because I lost a lot of my friends. I've lost my friends back in Vancouver, a lot of them. I lost a lot of my London friends, and I was like, I feel more alone than ever before. So who do I actually need? What do I actually need? And as I started kind of exploring that, unpacking that, and doing really deep and vulnerable in that, I then moved into what is now phase 3 of my program, which is the integrity phase, which is kind of this mentality of I'm very detached. I've worked through a lot of my stuff. I've cleared it. I feel very loose. I feel very light. I'm very free. I don't like where I'm at right now in life. So my job now is going to be to bring my life into greater integrity with who I really am at my core. Now that I know who I am best that I can, now that I know what I need to the best that I can. And I'm just going to start playing around with my life as if it's almost like an experiment, and start kind of nudging things to be in greater integrity with my authentic self, whatever that might look like. And so I made a plan to quit my corporate job. I made a plan to leave London. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know what job I was going to do. All I knew was that this wasn't feeling right. And I was just going to set myself free and kind of see what would happen. I got pretty clear on the kind of person and kind of people I wanted to be around. I didn't know what they looked like. I didn't know who they were. I just knew the kind of feeling I wanted to have. And I knew what my needs were. I was pretty clear on them. And I'm not even joking. A week later, after that, I went to the mountains and Slovakia on my own. It was like a backpacking trip. And, I was like hiking on my own. And I came back to London. I went to a music festival on my own. Part of my decision to just live my best life and, do whatever the heck I wanted to do. So I went to this music festival alone. And that's where I met my husband. And he's nothing of what I thought that I wanted. I mean, in the most wonderful way. Like, I think if I'd seen a staging profile, I would have been like, no, what is this guy? Nothing of what I wanted. He's everything of what I need. And so together, it's been so fascinating how on the back of that phase 3 integrity based in our program, we have, we embarked on a sabbatical together. We traveled the world a little bit together. I started building my business, which I would never have done had he not been behind me to kind of nurture and support me to go and do that. Not financially, but just like emotionally and spiritually and intellectually. He set me free. And, you know, now we live in Spain. We're probably going to go back to Canada, back to Vancouver, which is hilarious. I'm kind of coming full circle back to where I felt so good. And life has kind of gone through this journey of like unpacking the onion layers, right? And keep us small. And there's still tons of unpacking to do.
Right.
But from a love and relationship perspective, it's been so interesting how the program that I now teach is the program that I went through myself without knowing it's a program I went through myself. And all of those limiting beliefs I'm now so aware of. You know, 20 years ago, I now have shifted. I know how to shift them. And it's such an ongoing incremental process, but it does work. And we do move through and we do progress and we do heal ultimately. Very long answer.
No, but you are the proof, aren't you, that it does work? And you being the proof that it does work, then you are able to assist others to come through what you have been through. And I hope you are listening. And I always encourage, Katharina, I encourage my audience to switch from becoming a listener to one that hears what is being said. Because when you switch from a listener to a hearer, you affected the impact of what you're hearing will change your life. But when you are listening, you could still be distracted. But when you're hearing, no, you're plugged in. And I want you guys to listen and become play this again and again, because her story encompasses everything you will ever need to hear when it comes to personal development and moving through different phases and different stages in your life, dark places and back and forth. It is a dance that takes place. The stripping, the getting to know exactly what you want is key, because if you don't know exactly what you want, you will never get what you want because you haven't clarified yet. And again, I mentioned earlier that internal man, subconscious individual is who you are, needs to get that clarity, because when it happens, you will see the timeline or the manifestation is usually very quickly. It happens before you even know it, because it has been waiting on you to become clear as to what you want. Once you have that clarity and you release those words, I tell people those words is your relief. They are powerful, and you are going to embark on this journey that religious people call faith. You will no longer look at your job, and I tell people every one of us came to this planet with an assignment. The job is just to keep you distracted. You have to go in deep, strip, as Katharina was talking about. She was in there, man. She had all the construction tools ready and chipping away and breaking away things to get a better look inside. And as she got a better look inside, she was able to define what she wants, how she wanted, when she wanted, everything. And you will have to do the same thing. But she has her system that she has developed that will help you to get there faster. I am honored that she came, and I'm so glad that she went through the system, because the system actually is her life. And that's what I'm trying to get to you guys, that the system is her life. She is proof that it works. So we're going to provide everything for you guys to get to her, because she is the proof. And because she is the proof, she's going to be able to help you through your situation. All of you that think that you are lost, I have a guide that knows differently. And you just need to get in our space, and I'm going to provide you all of that information. So now here you are. You have vacated the job, and you pursued your assignment. You are now in your assignment. And one of the things that you mentioned about that restlessness, I tell people, that restlessness is in you because you are not where you need to be yet. is very important that you pay attention to that restlessness within yourself, because it's trying to move you from one space into another, because we have a tendency, if you will, to become complacent. And because we have this tendency to become complacent, the designers have created this thing inside us to make us restless and go, no, I don't need to be here. I need to do something else. And that something else is where you ought to be. And she talked about that as well. So those restlessness that you feel is moving you through some place that you need to be. And that is where most likely your assignment is located. So here you are, you've started your assignment, you've gotten your partner, you're building your tribe. What do you see as you look out today and you see what we are all seeing within the world? How do you speak to that individual, Rena, to pull them to you, to help them to begin to become a hero, to take that step necessary to begin to change their life?
It's a phrase that I kind of alluded to earlier. I think it's a phrase I heard in 2017, I remember, and I didn't know what it meant. Yeah. And now it makes sense. And it's this idea that what you want isn't necessarily at all what you need. And it's what you need that's going to make you happy, right? Because I think that we have so much, and the reason I work with a lot of high achievers is we have so much conditioning and training and molding and shaping to go after certain things, to live our lives a certain way, to pursue the career, make that money, buy that house, have that trophy partner, have the holidays, whatever it might be. But there's so much conditioning of what we want. At no point, though, does anyone ever really ask us, like, what do you actually need? Yeah. Right? And what we need is typically going to be quite different. And I understand there's a lot of fear of, well, who am I if I'm not following these constructs? And, goodness, if I think about, I remember there was a moment, I think it was during COVID in Vancouver, where I was like, if I actually got clear on what I need, it's hilarious, so I say it back then in Vancouver, I think I'm going to leave here, move to Ibiza, try to become a DJ, and probably adopt a load of animals and just, I didn't have going to like this kind of bum who just like does something. And the funny thing is, I actually do live in Ibiza, and I feel like I had to DJ with my husband. And I have 4 little cats. But it's not at all what I thought it would be. And this wasn't actually a conscious thing. It's hilarious. I remember that. So I wrote in my diary. It was such a fear of mine. In my head, I was like, I'd be a disgrace to society. I'd be an outcast. But it's like, no, I'm a business owner. I'm going to get interviewed by the Telegraph and Cosmopolitan magazine later today. I'm running a successful business, and I'm helping tons of people find love, find healthy, authentic, meaningful love, not showy, egoic love, but find the right life partner for you, which, again, I never thought I'd do. But heck, I'm helping people. They get the results. They're happy. So what more can I ask for at this point in my life, right? Yeah. So it's this kind of idea of like, I thought if I follow what I need, I'm just going to end up, losing my mind and just just going off the rails. None of that happened. I just became an entrepreneur and I crafted a really lovely life for myself and my really lovely husband and a happy marriage. It's lovely.
That's beautiful then. Yeah, that's just beautiful because it shows your story, your journey shows the power of the Creator that resides within us.
Yes.
Once we become clear on what we want. I grew up in a church, and I tell people, I remember reading Genesis, and this Creator was kind of crystal clear on what he wanted. He came on the scene and he says, you know what? Let there be light. And he began to he's creating. But there had to be some degree of contemplation of what he wanted in order to begin this creation. And then when he decided what he wanted, when he had the clarity of it, then he began to speak and said, let there be light, let there be this, let there be that, I need this, I need that, I need that, I need that. So when you and I are going to engage the Creator that is us, the model was given to us in Genesis chapter 1.
Mm.
We have to become clear on what you want. And then when you become crystal clear on what you want, and you will speak it, you will release power. And the cosmos, if you will, the energies, which are people, are going to begin to come together, and it's formed what they call Waisha, that will take these energies that are housed within this body, and they will start to manifest for you to get what you had just declared that you need to have done in a short time. That is the creator that we are all a part of, and it's up to you, but you must become clear. You must have a direct vision of what you want, and I promise you it will manifest. And we have a powerful creator in front of us. She laid her story out from the journey. You saw this girl that was felt that she was abandoned, to this woman right now, today, that is an entrepreneur, sought after, one that assists others to move through pain and darkness, one that has found her mate, one that is standing strong, one that is creating new world. That is who is before you guys. So I want to challenge you, all of you that are being trained by the program to get the wealth and get the wife and the picket fence and the 2.5 and the dogs and all that stuff, because that's all the program that they have. And they program all of us that way. But we listen to this individual that was programmed and realized she gained all of those things, and yet the program was not satisfying because she hadn't found her assignment yet. Once she found her assignment, wow, what a life she has. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming to Present Enlightenment and honoring us again with this precious commodity, your time and the power of your journey. And all of you guys that are listening, I invite you to become hearers. Play it over and over so that you can change, it can reside and drop inside of you, and you begin to get some clarity and move through your pain. And we're going to provide all of her information so you can get into her programs, get all the help that you need through this powerhouse that is before us. And they call her Katharina. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was an honor.
Thank you.